So, you've come to realize that you were raised in a high control religion, or as we call it around here, a cult. I know, it's a lot to take in. All the lies, all the false hopes, all the lost time. But hold on. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We just have to take things one step at a time. Now, Watchtower has constantly told you that people that leave the faith, the so-called apostates, are horrible people, mentally diseased individuals who you should avoid at all costs. But if you're watching this video, you probably realize that this is not true at all. Apostates are just normal people who were once where you are, but for one reason or another have decided to leave the organization. Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses come in all shapes and sizes, and it will be useful to know more about them. So grab my hand, paw, and let me give you a short tour through the XJW community, since knowing the community will probably help you in the first few weeks after waking up. Part 1. Take it slow. So you realize that the Jehovah's Witness religion is not true, or at least you're beginning to question the faith. I know the cognitive dissonance is probably making you nauseous, so take a deep breath. Don't rush into anything. Your first impulse might be to go running to your JW family and friends and tell them everything you're learning, but that would probably backfire, so relax and take things one step at a time. First of all, as you're waking up from your indoctrination, you're gonna want to do as much research as possible. Your religious indoctrination took years to complete, so it's not going to disappear overnight. The best resource I can recommend for your deconstruction is jwfacts.com. This excellent website documents Watchtower quotes, articles, and videos which show the flaws of this religion. You can find a vast array of topics, such as the times Watchtower misquoted sources, the times Watchtower predicted Armageddon, the times Watchtower flip-flopped on their policies, and various scandals which you might have never heard of. All these topics are very well documented, but of course, you'll probably want to make your own research as well. To do so, you can use the Watchtower online library, but the problem with this resource is that it only contains publications going back to the 1950s. If you want to get a hold of Watchtower literature that's older than the 1950s, you might want to search for a physical copy on eBay, or you can also check out this website, which is an internet archive of all Watchtower publications going back to the original Watchtower magazine. With meticulous research, you'll see for yourself the inconsistencies of the religion, and you'll see how Watchtower contradicts itself, and worst of all, how it hides its own troubled history from its members. Research as much as possible. As you continue in your research, you might start binge watching XJW content on YouTube, and that's great. I know I did that when I was barely waking up from my indoctrination, so here are a few terms which you'll probably stumble upon in the XJW community, which you'll find useful. We use several acronyms to refer to people inside and outside the Jehovah's Witness community. A PME is someone who is physically in, mentally in. A devout Jehovah's Witness who is both a believer and an active member in the congregation. Your family and friends might be PME themselves. An Uber PME is someone who is extremely devoted to the religion, someone who is hardcore, who is willing to shun their family and friends who are disfellowshipped. It usually includes long-time regular pioneers or elders. A PMO is someone who is physically in, mentally out, that is, an active Jehovah's Witness who no longer believes in the religion. This is probably the case with you right now. There's a lot of PMOs inside this religion. Members who no longer believe but have to remain active in the congregation over fear of losing family and friends, or because they can't leave the group for any other reason. We also have PMQs, members who are physically in, mentally questioning. We use this term to refer to active JWs who are currently questioning their faith. They're not fully convinced of the truth of the religion, but they're still doing their research, so somewhere in between a PME and a PMO. A POMO is someone who is physically out, mentally out, that is, an inactive or disfellowship member who no longer believes. I am a POMO myself, and in the eyes of the congregation, I'm considered inactive. Fading is the process of gradually missing meetings and field service to the point of becoming inactive altogether. Some fates are faster than others. In my case, the moment I stopped believing was the moment I stopped attending meetings. This is what we call a hard fade. But not everyone has the circumstances to do a hard fade, so most people fade over several months or even years. If you start fading, you will most likely receive calls or messages from concerned elders or family members. Remember, these people are not entitled to your private life. Only you can decide how much information you share with them. If elders demand you meet them for a shepherding visit, respectfully decline or make up an excuse. You do not owe them an explanation, and eventually, hopefully, they will leave you alone. Dealing with family members might be more difficult as they will be concerned about your spiritual health. Remember that just like with elders, only you decide how much information you share with your family. Always reassure them of your love and never resort to bitter arguments. Now, in case you are an underage Jehovah's Witness who no longer believes, and you might be wondering, well, how can I exit the religion without my parents disowning me? Well, you might have to wait a little bit until you are in a position to leave. It all depends on your parents. If they would accept you becoming inactive, it's really a thing of a case-to-case basis. The final acronym is what we call a POMI, a member who is physically out, either inactive or disfellowshipped, but is still a believer. The XJW community tends to look down on POMIs since they can be very judgmental even when they're not active JWs themselves. But remember that religious indoctrination is really hard to overcome. So these POMIs might go back to the religion after a significant event in their life, or they might start questioning and become POMOs, mentally leaving the religion as well. Every person's journey is different, and it is not our job to judge any particular case. Part 2. Throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Now, as you deconstruct from your Jehovah's Witness faith, you will also have to examine the wider claims of Christianity and the Bible. Does Jehovah exist? Is the Bible the Word of God? Do I have to throw away religion entirely? Now, all these are important questions, and a lot of people who are rarely leaving the faith can fall into a full-blown existential crisis. So be patient with yourself. You don't need to answer everything overnight. Some ex-Jehovah's Witnesses remain Christian. Some of them join another denomination, and others start their own ministries or decide to worship privately. What I invite you to do is to start learning about the Bible by using tools outside the Watchtower publications. As you will soon realize, Watchtower study tools are actually very unscholarly and lacking in depth. So go wild on your research. Listen to different Bible scholars and what they have to say. Learn about how the Bible was written, by who, and for what reasons. Some excellent books I recommend for you are The Bible Unearthed, which gives you a fascinating insight into the world of biblical archaeology. Bart Ehrman also has some great books. For example, How Jesus Became God, which talks about the gradual development of Christology and the Trinity. Reading the Bible in context will open up a fascinating part of history that Watchtower was just too ignorant to teach. Learn about early Israelite religion. Learn about textual criticism, Second Temple Judaism. Learn as much as possible. Learn about other Christian traditions. When I was rarely waking up for my indoctrination, I viewed every single video from the Bible Project on YouTube, which helped me approach the Bible in new and fascinating ways. I also enjoyed reading Bible commentaries, and doing this helped me to see that the Bible can be interpreted in many different ways, and each tradition has their strengths and weaknesses. Turns out that studying the Bible on your own can actually be quite enjoyable. Now, if you choose to remain Christian, that's okay. I'm no longer a Christian myself, but I respect whoever wishes to remain in the faith. But now, instead of having a shallow, fundamentalist dogma as your faith, you will have a more nuanced and compassionate approach. Another book you cannot miss is Crisis of Conscience by Raymond Franz. Raymond served in the governing body back in the 1970s, and he eventually stepped down from his position. In his book, He reveals insider information on how the governing body operates and why he decided to leave the faith. You will even learn about a few Watchtower scandals, which you might have never heard about. Another recommendation I give is Apocalypse Delayed. This is the best book on Jehovah's Witness history you can find, although it can be a little hard to get a hold of. This book tracks the history of Jehovah's Witnesses from the days of Charles Russell to modern times. You will see how the Jehovah's Witness religion is not actually unique, but rather it arose out of existing Christian traditions and through a lot of controversial events. Putting religious dogma in context always helps you understand it better. Now, religion is not the only thing that I invite you to research. Watchtower constantly talks down against scientific research, and by now you might only have a superficial idea on how evolution works. Watchtower paints evolution as complete nonsense, and it does so by misrepresenting what evolution actually is, and by misquoting scientists in their publications. So do yourself a favor and learn about biology. YouTube is full of educational channels which make it a joy to learn. My personal favorites are Forrest Balkai, PBS Eons, Stephen Milo, and Aaron Ra. Don't stop at biology though. Learn more about history, archaeology, psychology, and about other religions. The more knowledge you gain, the better. Remember, accepting evolution does not mean you have to leave Christianity altogether or stop believing in God. A lot of scientists are Christian, and a lot of Christians accept evolution. Religious fundamentalists want you to believe in things which are not true, like humanity being 6,000 years old or other fanciful tales. Don't fall for it. Do your own research and apply critical thinking every step of the way. Part 3. Learn from others. When you're deconstructing from a high control religion, you might feel isolated, like no one could relate to your experience. But trust me, you're not the only one who has gone through this painful experience. So watch and read the experiences of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, how they woke up and how they left the faith. You will find that their experience might be similar to yours. But don't stop there. Listen to the experiences of people who have left other high control groups, like Scientology or the LDS Church. You will see that even though they belonged to very different religions, they also endured a similar indoctrination as you. The absolute best book I can recommend for you is Combating Cult Mind Control by Steven Hassan. Hassan was a former member of the Moonies cult, a notorious Korean-based group that was very popular back in the 80s. Dr. Hassan explains in detail how high-control religions operate, and knowing this will make sense of your own experience, and it will equip you to help others in the future. So learn, my friend. Thinking for yourself is one of the best parts of leaving this religion. So use that beautiful brain of yours and get to work. As the months pass by, you will start reshaping your new identity outside the religion. You will also have to readjust your moral framework and your life priorities. But now, you have the freedom to express yourself freely, and there really is no price for that. Part 4. Losing a support system, gaining a new one. As you might soon find out, leaving the Jehovah's Witness faith will come at a price. Even by just fading and becoming inactive, you will probably lose most of your JW friends. Now, you might react with anger, and rightfully so, but remember that your friends are still indoctrinated, and by limiting contact with unbelievers, they are simply following the religious programming and protecting their fragile faith. So practice as much compassion as possible. Who knows, maybe your friends will wake up one day in the future and contact you again. Or maybe they won't. It's impossible to tell. So what you should start doing now is building a new support network outside the congregation. You might want to look for co-workers, unbelieving family members, or even strangers you might come across. It might be difficult finding new friends at first, but just be patient and eventually some good, loving people will come into your life. Dealing with family can be much more difficult. After weeks of research, you might feel inclined to dump everything you've learned on your loved ones, hoping they will also wake up. But remember, religious indoctrination takes a long time to undo, and everyone wakes up in different ways. Be honest with your family, be respectful, assure them of your love, and reassure them that your loss of belief does not need to strain your relationship. Some believing family members might choose to keep their distance from you, and that cold treatment can be especially painful when it's coming from your parents. But please, do not react harshly. Be patient and really think on how you want to proceed with the relationship. The best thing you can do in these cases is living the best life you can. Jehovah's Witnesses are taught that every person who leaves their religion will be miserable and will eventually come back crying to Jehovah. Prove them wrong. Live a good, honest life. Work on improving yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, and keep your self-dignity intact. Of course, your life after leaving the group will not be perfect. There will be good days and there will be awful days. But if you keep trying to live your best life possible, your family will take notice and they might realize that, hey, happiness is achievable outside this religion. You might also benefit from joining the XJW community on Reddit, where you'll find other members who have left or are in the process of leaving the faith. Being in these communities will help you feel less alone, and eventually you might even move on from XJW material altogether. But of course, the XJW community will still be here, and it will most likely grow as this religion continues to decline. Just remember, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are very diverse. Some will make content you enjoy. Others might absolutely get on your nerves. And that's okay. The strength of this community is in its diversity, and there's a little bit for everyone. In the last few years, a lot of new XJW creators have appeared on YouTube, and some of them, like myself, are very irreverent and sarcastic. Others are a little more serious and research-centered. There's XJW podcasts, animations, LEGO stop-motion parody videos, and of course, lots and lots of memes. I believe the best way to heal is through humor. That's why I make my videos very silly, but if that's not your cup of tea, please keep looking until you find creators you enjoy. There's a space for everyone here. Talking about healing, you might find yourself in need of counseling or therapy. There is no shame in that. Seek the help you need. Try to find a professional who focuses on religious trauma, as they will have the right tools to help you improve your mental health. You deserve to be happy. So don't forget the main tips. Take it slow, do as much research as possible, be compassionate with yourself and with others, establish a support group outside the religion, and live the best life possible. Leaving the faith is an incredibly difficult process, but I hope these tips will help you on your journey out. And if you enjoyed this video, please share it with someone who might need it or who might benefit from it. Hopefully it helps them as well. The best of luck to you, my friend.